And we're live. Welcome back to the Weekly Roundup, the place where we unpack what's been going on in the yoga and wellness world and what we've been coaching our clients through. I'm Carol, and this is Mara, our
Hey,
YC Ops
everyone.
ninja, and all things social media and marketing. We were talking before the call about doing a rebrand in your studio, and wow, there's a lot of stuff to think about whenever you're doing a rebrand. I'm actually coaching a client right now through it, and just once they finally settled on a new name, I was like, "Have you made sure that you can get that Instagram handle? Do you have is it even available? What are you going to name it if it's not there? So that was one of the things, and they hadn't done it yet, so we just quickly checked to make sure it was available. And then I was telling it's like there are so many things that come up whenever you're doing a rebrand like that. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, rebrands are a serious thing. Like even just changing the name or yeah, when you're rebranding, it's a process. So yeah, like Carol was saying, there's like the Instagram handle, there's your URL for your website. Like that's the number one thing that you need to check. Like thankfully, a lot of people, what they've been doing is putting the dash in if you have like two parts to your name or whatever, and like that's given people a lot of grace with that because that's a big one that people don't think about. And then you go and you come up with this amazing name and you're so excited about it, and then the domain's not available, or it's thousands and thousands of dollars to buy that domain. And I mean, even when we were coming up with some new things for the YC, we are like dead set on this name, and we're like, yeah, this is it. This is so cool. And then we go and look up at the domain, and it was not available in any way, shape, or form. And we're like, oh my goodness. And like even just the Yogapreneur Collective, because that's like when we changed our emails, and we're like, okay, Nomad Business Coaching is a handful. Yogapreneur Collective gets spelt wrong every single time, even by me. And so we're like, okay, the YC, but that wasn't available. And so then the dash YC, and that's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. It's really
Yeah.
hard, I mean, it's kind of, you know, there's so many similar names, or when you're in that yoga sphere, you're going to have Lotus, you're going to have, you know, I don't know,
Hot
like it's
yoga,
really
like,
hard. Hot yoga, I know. Yeah, it's
yeah,
like really difficult to differentiate yourself
yeah,
in that way.
it
But
really
yeah,
is. Yeah. And like even just like the little logistical things that you wouldn't think of aside from the domain, but like then it's the back end stuff. Like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Like rebranding or, oh my gosh, I can't even. It's a lot. And then you got to like promote it and sell it on social media. Like there's the introducing the new name, like
mhm.
there's telling your community, and then you have to like literally change everything. Any branded documents that you already have, like your sign-in sheet, your like your challenge board that you make every challenge, you got to change that. You got to update it. There's a big old
Everything
checklist.
everywhere. Yeah. I mean, we do have a checklist that we have when coaching, which is really, really helpful.
Okay.
And I think it's just also, it's going to be more places than you remember.
Yeah.
Um, I was also, this client that I'm coaching it through, they're like, oh, we should do a sale on our old branded stuff.
Yeah.
Like before, they haven't announced it yet, but it's sort of like now we have all this old branded gear. And I know we changed our logo and changed our name and that kind of stuff too. It was at a time when we didn't have a lot of branded items anyway, but of course it goes on deep discount and you're just trying to get rid of
Yeah.
but yeah, there's just so many logistical details to think of. Um, and, you know, some of it, if you are, well, in that same vein, we were kind of talking about also expansion.
Mhm.
And if you have if you're going into a second location, then you have to think about, am I going to have one Instagram account that covers both? Do
Yeah.
I have one for this location and one for the other. It's,
Yeah.
again, so many, and then your website needs to reflect the new locations too. And so
Yeah.
making sure that that flows properly and people
Yeah.
know which one they're going to.
And SEO, like that's a
Yeah.
whole nother beast that you gotta consider. And you like Google My Business profiles, you gotta have two separate ones. And that's the one thing, like with your website and your Google My Business, is like you need each one connected to a specific page. So you need to make sure that you have a dedicated page for that new location that can be connected to that Google My Business. Yeah, having a checklist and an SOP for doing this would just be a godsend.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
even if
Well,
you
we
just
were
sign up for
talking,
coaches just to do your rebrand.
well, we were talking before when I sold my studio. Mara actually, her company was doing our social media at the time. And so it was, they needed access, everybody needs access to all of these platforms.
Yeah.
And luckily, I had been coaching with a coach in the YC, and we had a dedicated, Google Doc that listed every single login for every single platform, which was not only helpful to me as the owner, but when I handed it over to the new owner, there you
It's
go. There's no
there's
question. It's
key.
just, there it is. It's your unlock the door to everything you need.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's
little
so
things like
helpful.
that are
Yeah.
really, really
Yeah. The people that I come across that don't track passwords, and I'm talking about like just my husband basically, like he doesn't ever know what his passwords are. Like, how do you not keep track of your passwords? Like it, even all my personal stuff, like it's in a spreadsheet. Like I have my business ones, I have like we have team login sheets, all the things. And like, yeah, like it's so handy because in whatever situation, if you hire someone new, they don't have to come and ask you for things. And if you're selling your studio and handing it over like Carol did to a person, like here's everything you need. And it's so handy and giving them access to everything. And there are other things that need to be considered as well. Like when um, Facebook profiles, depending, like this is more of an issue that I've seen with like older studios, like that have been around for like 15, 20 years, because Facebook has changed so much. And like basically every time you go into back end Facebook, it's something's different, like day to
yeah,
day. It's super
yeah.
fun. And because back in the day, you would actually like start a profile, like a personal profile for your studio. And then they changed everything like in the last 5 years. You had to have your business account and all of that stuff. And if you don't have the proper access to that and you're expanding or you're selling, that back end stuff can get so messy. And like it's such a simple thing to just make sure that you have the appropriate access and you can, yeah, it's,
And there's nobody, it's really hard to get somebody to help you with a Facebook profile. Like
yeah,
it's this deep rabbit hole of like, trying to figure it out on your own, and it's
yeah.
not intuitive at all. So
And is not intuitive
no,
at
no.
all.
Yeah.
No.
Oh my gosh. It's crazy. And just as a side note for the passwords, it cracked me up. I was getting a yearbook for my son, and to log into this website to buy a yearbook, I needed a 16 character password
Oh my goodness.
with, all the things, the extra characters. And I was like, this is for a yearbook. Like, this isn't even my bank. It
Oh
was
my
ridiculous.
goodness. Yeah, your banking
So,
password is probably way more simple.
yeah, yeah, don't tell anyone. But I could not believe they're getting out of hand for sure.
Yeah. Well, and then like you know how on app like well, on my phone anyways, whenever I like create a new account, it's like, do you want us to create a password for you? And it's literally I look at them and it's like star exclamation mark at 725 and I'm like, no.
Oh, no,
I'm
don't
gonna
do
be
it.
locked up forever if I lose this password. Like,
Oh,
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 oh goodness. Yeah. What about operational stuff aside from like keeping your passwords are handy to know when you're rebranding or selling your studio, things like that? Like, what are some major tips about that?
Well, I mean, from selling the studio, that standpoint, and I've talked to my coaching clients about this too, whether you're selling or not, if you have that mindset and you start to think about, if I were to hand this over, what would it look like? It makes everything better. It
Yeah.
really does. It forces you into thinking in terms of like, how do I systematize things? How do I do need to make SOPs for all the things that I do as the owner. And then that also creates an environment where you can hand off things to other people because it's written down very clearly, passwords included, the how to is there. So, like, I think that just even whether you're planning to sell or not, you never know when you might be in a position where you might be forced to for some reason, like outside forces or family stuff happens. We've seen this before and it needs to be like a quick turnaround. If you're already have those things in place, then you're ready, whether you want to or not, or whether you think that you're going to or not.
Yeah.
So I think thinking in terms of what would it look like if I were to sell, again, just to reiterate, it's like it makes you as the owner better, it makes the studio run better. And yeah, I think that it's really actually a good way to start visioning your future in the studio is like,
Yeah.
what if I wanted to sell? What would that look like? And start
Yeah.
to put the pieces in place that will make it happen. Because nobody wants to buy a job
Yeah.
where like everything's on you and
Yeah.
I don't know where things are, so
Yeah.
when you can get that together, it
Yeah.
it really helps.
Absolutely. I was just thinking that. It's like it makes the sale 10 times more valuable
Mhm.
because they're literally like buying a well-oiled machine that is already producing results. It's already like profitable, maybe profitable, whatever, but like it's already like in the flow. So this
Mhm.
person can literally just like pop themselves in and it's just ready to go. Like they don't have to question anything, they don't have to figure anything out. And it's the thing too that I've noticed is it's the little things that really are important. Like obviously you need those SOPs for like how everything in software, like adding a new student, putting a new contract in, updating your pricing, like all of that. But like also things as simple as like what do you do when the I don't know, like the drink shipments come in, like very, very simple things. Like, do you need to do inventory? Where does the inventory go? Where do you store extra stuff? Like little things matter. And it like just think about if you wanted to even just take a vacation,
Mhm.
what would happen to your studio if you were going to take a vacation? Would it be able to run without you, or would it just completely go to shambles?
Yeah. That's what Terry likes to call it, your alien abduction guidebook. Isn't that right? Something like that. Like the guide to alien abduction. Like if something were to
So
happen to you,
yeah.
you got abducted, what would happen?
Yeah.
Would anybody even know? The other part of this is somebody needs to know where to look for these
Yeah.
SOPs and they need access to it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and I agree, like the smallest details in your studio should have an SOP. Like you assume that people know how to run a washing machine.
Be
Maybe not.
surprised.
You would be surprised. So I suggest having all of that written out. And we talk about having like the macro, so the higher level, like these are the broad things that need to be done. We have the micro, which is like very detailed, like
Mhm.
literally the alien abduction, like step one.
Like if I'm a complete stranger walking through the doors, I can figure it out and
Yes,
follow these
exactly.
steps and
Yep.
produce some kind of a result.
Yeah. So you read it in that way, like if I knew nothing, would this make sense?
Yeah.
And then you have the practical, like if it is the how to run the washing machine, there's a little like mini step by step right next to the washing machine that says like turn
Yeah.
this dial, put this many scoops in, turn it on hot, push this button.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a good point too. Like things like the washing machine, you want to put that SOP where it's going to be used. Like turning the heat on and managing the heat in your hot room. Put it right by the heat controls so that
Yeah.
it's like there's no guessing. They don't need to go to the front desk, look in a binder, find the SOP for how to fix the heat. Like it should be right where the question arises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another one that really like took a lot of pressure off of me as the owner too, which is when you're onboarding and then offboarding a new employee.
Yeah.
Is there, that might not happen very often. So like there are many little details that go into like you add them to your software, you have to add them to your payroll, you have to give them a key or tell them how to enter and exit proper. Like those even not just beyond even training them
Yeah.
in terms of like how the studio should operate, there are these little like having a checklist for those types of things was really really helpful because it was all in my head for a long time. And I realized keeping things in my head like that were not like
Yeah.
they were stressful. So yeah, all the forms that they need to fill out, have those in the SOP. Like you can just create that email and say, fill these guys out,
Yeah.
get it back to me, So that was
Yeah.
a big one for me as an owner.
That's a really good thing. Yeah. And like I onboard the new coaches and team members and stuff with the YC, and oh, it's a lot. And every single time I go back in, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful I have this SOP and like checklist. And yeah, it does change over time. And
Mhm.
it's okay to like add or remove things that are like no longer relevant or you need. And it just really, really helps streamline the process. And then things aren't forgotten. And then it like eliminates any like negative, like, oh, they didn't do this or they didn't do this, but well, like if they just have everything, there's nothing that they can't do, and like they have all of your and then you can also like then give them all of the SOPs as well that you have that they're going to be that are important to their role. And so like you're setting them up for success right off the bat, which can be really helpful instead of just being like, we're going to figure it out together. That's stressful for not just for you, but for them too, right? Like not everybody likes to roll like that. And
Yeah, no, I think that that's another, when we work with studio owners that almost it feels like the staff is running the show
yeah,
versus the owner. I think that's part of it actually. It's like the studio owner doesn't have their shit together enough to be like, this is how things go. This
yeah.
is how we do, and so that, oh, Terry's popping on
Terry from
from
Portugal.
Portugal. Oh my gosh. You are muted.
I I can pop on for saw that it was starting late anyway, so I can pop on for only about 20 minutes, but I thought, well, I could at least pop on for a little bit. So,
Yeah, great.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How are things going there?
oh, it's great. I mean, it's busy, it's really super busy. I was working on working with Lydia for just finishing up the things I'm doing the Soulful Sales thing tomorrow. So we're just working on getting everything solidified for tomorrow. So yeah, it's good. I took a class this morning, just about died, but it's really good. She's doing I like the way she's doing the training. I think it's really good. Um, and so Jessica Rask is here, and it's super fun. Yeah, it's been fun hanging out, talking about yoga postures, and like I know because they're very much in the Mary Jarvis lineage, as you know. It's like some of the things they teach is like I never taught it that way because I wasn't in that lineage, and so it's just interesting on some of the things they say. And I'm not obviously saying anything in front of the YTT people, but I'm like, hey, I'm just curious, blah blah blah. So it's been fun just sitting around talking about yoga, drinking wine after, the end of the day and, just chilling. And oh my God, I love Portugal. Love, love, love Portugal.
Yeah.
I totally want to go back to Lisbon. This retreat center is amazing. It really is super nice. Although you get your workout, it's pretty spread out and it's like, it's up and down, up and down, up and down. I've been getting like all my steps just walking to and from places.
Yeah.
And it's about 2,100 feet, which I think is like 700 meters, Mary. So it's a little bit elevation. So and elevation does bother my heart a little bit. So I've been kind of like when we're doing the hills and stuff, it's like, oh my God, it's hard for me sometimes to catch my breath a little bit. But I mean, like I've got like almost 100. I mean, I get zone minutes by just walking around, not even fast, because it's like, but it's good.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, we were talking about we started about talking about rebranding and how there's so many little pieces to to that, and even from mainly from the social media side and like and website and all those things, in addition to all of the marketing
Other stuff.
that there's just so much. And we kind of like rolled into SOPs again. Those are always
You're talking about your
can I talk
alien
about
abduction plan, Terry.
your
My
alien
alien abduction plan.
Yeah.
I pulled that up. So, but yeah.
What do you have to say about
I
that,
think that's
Terry?
great. The other thing, I'm actually going to do a post about this, but we could, if there's time, is Lydia's been coming. She's kind of like Terry Onquest. Terry Onquest is going to the same retreat center in Costa Rica for probably like 12, 13 years now. And Lydia's been coming here for, I think, 3 or 4 years now. This is her third YTT she's done. She does a retreat here. She has a retreat in the fall. It's sold out. It only has 1 spot left, and she's done no advertising. So I thought that was, I asked her about it, and I said, one of the things I think people think is when they do retreats that they have to go to a new place every year or people will get bored. And the reality is, I think it's actually better. And Lydia said that. She said, yeah, I know what to expect. I know exactly. And then what happens is, and I asked her, but she said, oh yeah, the people who come, they end up selling it for her. Right? Because they come back and they, oh my God, this place in Portugal was so awesome. If they do it, so it's like, it's almost like you have a built-in funnel. She said, yeah, I only have 1 spot left. It's April 3rd. The retreat's not until September, and it's sold out 1 spot.
Wow.
It's amazing.
And she absolutely says it's because, people like it here. It's a good place. They know it's close from the Netherlands, which is another factor because it's only it's probably a couple-hour plane ride. And then from the airport, it takes about an hour and 15 minutes to get here, but still that's reasonable. So anyway, I just thought that would be an interesting if we have time. Just don't think you have to go to some new place unless that's your like deal. But if you just want to build like that retention and build that lifetime value.
Yeah. Well, and I can speak from like someone who I know that like the summit isn't the same as a retreat, but it kind of is in a way.
Yeah, it kind of is.
But like it's very stressful. It adds like a significant amount of stress and extra planning and things to like reiterate everything and establish a new place. Like when we switched to Ximena from La Jolla, it was like you're dealing with all new staff on the ground. They don't really know what to expect. You don't know what to expect. Like you don't like there's all these little things, and that's where an SOP really comes in handy.
Yeah, I have an SOP.
Yeah, I have an SOP of okay, these are all the questions that I need to ask the staff and get to know the staff, and I need things from them and blah 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 blah. And like you're really relying on that because changing locations constantly can be really stressful.
Yeah, stressful. Yeah.
It's cool for the people, but at the same time, like what Terry was saying, it's nice to like know where you're going and know how nice it is and know what to expect and you're in that.
And then the clients talk about it and say, oh, you should totally come. Yeah. Hey, Josh, I was just saying that I can only stay for like 20 minutes now, but I was just saying that I was talking to Lydia. She's been coming to this retreat center now for several years. She's done a couple of YTTs here as well as some yoga, just straight up retreats. She has a retreat scheduled for September. It's sold out but 1 spot, and she's done 0 advertising. Because it's like she just announces it and people, and then they sell it to because there's a familiarity about it. People can have that social, it's like, yeah, I've been there. It's awesome. You should go. And the clients then really do help you sell it. So.
Yeah. Does she do it at the same time every year?
Yeah, she does YTT about this time, and she does the retreat in like the fall, like September.
Yeah. It's the same like our summit too.
Yeah, that's what Mary was talking about.
We have the consistent spot. Yeah. I feel like studios, if you want to build that product, there's two routes. You either build this entire product line
Why
of
don't we
like
go live?
oh, we're not live?
We are live.
Are we live?
I'm live.
Carrie, we're
Oh,
live.
shit, I didn't know that. You should have told me that. It's a good thing I didn't say anything embarrassing.
We're like 30 minutes in, Terry.
Terry's been running her mouth the whole time.
I just assumed he hadn't gone live yet. That you.
We are live. Mhm.
We're pretty raw around here, those you guys watching this. We don't hold it back.
I am
my
so
God.
embarrassed now. It's a good thing I didn't say
We were
anything
just
horrible.
talking about your steps and everything in the retreat. All good.
Next
think-
time you guys have to give me a heads up that we're live.
Do you mean like the thing on the corner that says lot? No. But whatever, it doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter. So yeah, so I
retreat
was
thing-
talking. Yeah,
the
so I
retreat
started
thing,
to
though.
interrupt Josh. So go ahead.
No, I think there's two paths that I've seen that are really successful. One is retreats on the whole are like this branch of the business where you're doing multiple per year, you have different destinations, they serve different purposes. So it's like you're sort of you have this retreat branch. And so it's an ongoing conversation in the studio, therefore, that you do retreats and that you should pay attention to when the next one is on, and it'll be a different place, a different reason, et cetera, et cetera. And then that makes it a conversation. Or you do maybe just one retreat a year, but it's consistent, not necessarily in destination, although that can help too. It's like this once a year big thing that we do, and it becomes a dependable thing that people talk about, to you guys' point, where it's like, oh yeah, I went before, yeah, you should go, it's cool, whatever. The commonality between the two is, how do you make something like a retreat a conversation in the studio?
Yeah.
We talk about this with retail all the time too. If you want to sell retail needs to be something you talk about in the studio.
Yeah.
Just having it on the wall, people just walk by it and don't see it after a while. If you're talking about it on social media, if you're updating things, if it looks different, if the front desk is wearing it, if if there's a coupon during the intro, so then it's a conversation and blah, 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 then it becomes part of the internal culture of the studio and you end up selling more retail. Retreats, teacher trainings, same thing.
Totally case in point. Like I just finished the client's KPIs because she needed them today. And they've been making retail a focus. That's one of her dominoes from the summit, was to increase retail sales. And one of the things she came up with is she has a monthly goal for her front desk team, which I know you guys did with Josh and they're at your studio.
Yeah.
And guess what? Since she started putting that goal in, guess what's happening? They're hitting the goal. And then this month is the best month she's ever done in retail since she opened her studio. It's double what it was a year ago. That's not just by accident, because like you said, they're talking about it, they're looking for opportunities to sell it, they have all those things you just said, they put into practice, and the manager gets a little bonus if they hit their retail goal each quarter. So then she's motivated, to make sure that, they have we broke it down, they have a daily, a weekly, and a monthly goal, so that they know, like, we haven't hit our weekly goal. What can we say? Who can we talk to tonight? Then it's like goes into that opportunity that they're actively looking for. Oh yeah, Carol's coming tonight. Carol loves pink, and we just got, hey Carol, we've got these, you should get this. I mean, I used to do that. I would oh my gosh, Carol, I just got this outfitted. Here's a top. Go try it on. It'll be great. I seriously would do that. And 9 times out of 10 people would say, oh my gosh, this is so great. Put it on I just charge it to their credit card. Can you guys tell I'm a little hyped here? I'm like, oh my God. Even more so than usual. Well, I took a Bikram yoga class. It's straight up 90-minute OG Bikram yoga class this morning for the first time in a long time. So it was really fun. Anyway, I'll shut up.
It sorts you out. I think that the key, though, is just like anything, make it a conversation in the studio. I think people underestimate exposure and how impactful that is. The idea that we're not a product of our environment, in my opinion, is incorrect. We are both nature and nurture. There's an intertwinement there. But what can you control from a business perspective in your studio is the environment that people are coming into. That's part of the whole experience. Part of the environment is like, what's the culture of the studio? And so things that you want to be part of the culture, like you have to make a conversation about it. So if that's retail, yes. If it's retreats, yes. If it's workshops, yes. Just having them alone doesn't do that. Workshops are another example, simple example. Like we have studios that are doing a workshop every month, and every month it's like got 10 people in it. And it's like, if you're doing that many workshops, then workshops need to become part of the entire ethos and conversation of like what's happening and why you should be doing the workshop and what it's about and whatever. So yeah, just making it the conversation.
As guys were talking about when I came on, is that, and you should have, and what? SOP. So all of these things, right, Carol?
Oh yeah. Well, and I mean, it's making me think of just having your teachers announce it in class is not enough. We've been talking about this a lot as coaches. Like, you need to teach your teachers how to sell this thing. Like, it's not enough to be like, there's a retreat happening in, September. Let us know if you have any questions at the front desk. Like, okay, why would I want to go to that? Like, give me some context here. Like, I don't know. It's interesting. I think it's a conversation that a lot of studio owners don't have with their staff. Terry.
Terry got a shout out in the comments already.
Oh, did she? Oh, okay.
From Julie says, Terry, you're the best. A bunch of laughing faces.
Carol, I think you're making a really good point of just like whatever you're selling, if you want your team to be able to sell it, you've got to empower them to be able to talk about it. So like using the retreat as the example, okay, you're doing a retreat, you're going to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, you're going to go to Shimilani. Like, what are the top 3 talking points? Like, what are the things that you want your entire team to repetitively just drill into the community? We're going here and it's going to do this thing and it's awesome for this reason and you're going to become this person or whatever. You have to come up with that language for them and sort of get them doing that. Hence the marketing concept, like repetition. You memorize through repetition. So what are the repeatable things that are high value? It's not, we have a retreat.
Yeah.
Early bird special.
One thing that I remember doing at the studio when I was working front desk is like almost every single person that came in that was a regular, if it was a workshop or we had a challenge coming up, it's like, hey, have you signed up for the challenge yet? Do you want to sign up? Like just starting that conversation so they're not just hearing it at the end of class when they're in Savasana from the teacher. It's like everybody in the studio is like talking about it and reiterating it and like bringing it up to you personally and getting you excited for it. Or if it's a new retail thing, it's like, hey, have you seen like we got new retail in? Do you go like, let's go check it out. I saw this thing. I think you'll love it. Like, and like all of the staff also like, well, me especially, like always wore the new stuff. So then people were like, ooh, I love your top. I'm like, thanks. We just got this in. It's just over here. You should go try it on, like really starting the conversation in that way. And your front desk people are the perfect people for this, like to start those conversations because they're the ones interacting with everybody. And yeah, like even selling water bottles, like, oh, I see you have a milk jug. How about a nice water bottle that'll make your water nice and cold all through class?
Dude, it's true. We had a bunch of people that always had the 4-liter milk jug coming. Yeah, whatever. Anyways,
yeah, there was that one guy that he would not buy a water bottle.
No.
And finally, I broke him down, and I got him to buy a water bottle after like 4 years.
Yeah, I think it finally took the like. I think that plastic's ending up in your.
Yeah.
Your gut.
Yeah. The thing I was gonna say.
Oh.
Hang on, Terry. My hand was first.
Yeah, you took your hand down.
No, I took it down. You go. I can't
No, you finish.
I didn't even start.
You never end. You're the never-ending story, Josh.
That's true. We could go for a minute.
A minute.
The SOP thing that like with the retail too, I was just thinking, Mara, as you were saying that, to build something into the culture so it's there for a conversation. One thing I see in studios that's really fascinating is how their own staff are not part of the culture of the thing they're trying to promote. So retail is a really good example, but you could take the same for retreats, teacher training, whatever, where it's like if you're trying to sell a yoga mat and none of your staff practice on that yoga mat, or none of your staff wear the brands that you carry, like that's weird. That doesn't make sense. We used to, even in our last studio, you weren't supposed to wear Lululemon at the desk because we don't sell Lululemon. Like we're not promoting that brand sort of thing. And that was like the only identifiable brand at the time that mattered. That little detail aside, it's the idea that you want your team participating in this stuff so they're also hyped. So if you want them wearing your retail, like a discount isn't, yeah, give them some retail. Like a discount's one piece of the puzzle, but there are other things you can do to get them using your retail and gifting them things, challenges, give them access ahead of time, whatever. Same thing with the retreat. And you made me think of it, Mara, because with the yoga challenges, we also had a rule. It's like someone on the team had to do the yoga challenge. And then we would talk about that. So when the front desk is talking about, hey, Carol, have you done this? Like, have you signed up for the yoga challenge? It's coming from, like, I've signed up for the yoga challenge. I'm on the board. So it's not just promotional. It's like, this is an activity that everyone, including the staff, are now part of. It's not just, hey, are you going on the retreat? Be like, dude, it's finally my turn to go on the retreat. Are you coming with me? Even if it's just one of your team, that changes the dynamic of participation. And I feel like I'm seeing more and more of these studios that we're going to that's not the case. The teaching team, the front desk team are like isolated from the community of the people. And that undermines in a subconscious way the sort of internal feeling of how awesome something is.
I was going to say that with regards to retail,
I'm done, Terry.
Okay, thank you. Is that I would, like with front desk, I would give them like a t-shirt or whatever that I wanted them to wear and just say wear black leggings kind of thing. Then occasionally, like if a teacher did something above and beyond or whatever, I would say, hey, I'm placing an order with so-and-so. Why don't you pick out an outfit and I'll get it for you? You know, so you can do, or someone on the front desk does a really good job at something. It's just, hey, Mira, you know, thanks for doing this thing, whatever it is, you went above and beyond. I'm placing an order with X. Why don't you pick an outfit out? Or I would say, hey, I'm placing an order. If you want to order anything, let me know and I'll give it to you at the wholesale price. I'll just give them at cost. So that sometimes I would give it away. Other times I would just say, hey, if you want to order, I'll give it to you at cost. But I wanted to, when you were talking about like workshops and stuff like that, we had a real life example of that just about talking, Josh. Remember when we went out to California, oh gosh, almost 2 years ago, they had the studio we're at had something coming up, some type of workshop coming up that weekend. I don't remember exactly what it was. And we were there and we said nobody had been talking about it and it hadn't been selling very well. And we just started talking about it. And the evening that we're there, they got like 6 people to sign up. Because the other thing too is even though you have it posted and even though you've got your teachers and you're talking about it and people are thinking, yeah, I want to do it, you've got to get them to take the action to buy it. It's just like on any type of pricing plan. It's like if you could do it for them right at the desk, right? And so it's like, oh, I've been meeting. And some of it was, oh yeah, we'll get you signed up right now because hopefully you have all your clients' credit cards on file, kind of thing. So that's where, when you talk about the front desk, that's why the front desk job is so important. And in fact, this was the client last night. You were on the call, Josh, where they said, oh, we got this awesome resume for someone that wants to work at the front desk and they can do all this social media stuff and all this and all that. And I said, well, what about sales? Is there any? And they were like, well, no. And I said, and they're like, oh, I said, so it's like, you got to make sure you're hiring the right person for the job, Josh. And then I got to, actually on that note, I got to go. Because I'll tell you, since I got to go because I'm getting a massage. So I got to go.
All right.
Bye,
Bye.
Enjoy,
guys.
Terry.
Enjoy.
Did you see my note, Mara? Did you see my note in the chat?
No. If
Well,
I check the chat, everybody sees the chat.
oh, the chat was, send me the recording and I'll do the follow-up.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all right. Bye, everybody. We'll
Bye.
see you
Terry.
later.
Terry.
Bye-bye.
Missing the roundup for a massage. I don't know. Terry, your priorities right here.
Fired.
Fired. Oh my! I can't even remember what I was going to say now. We were talking about. Oh, I was going to go back to Carol. You and I have been talking about this a lot with the front desk team and the cross promotion of classes. It's happened twice where Carol and I were asking the team. We were like, okay, well, why is this class good? And they couldn't. Even the teacher, like they couldn't actually answer. They didn't have a really good response that wasn't just super generic, especially comparing classes. And the front desk team, then it came out like one or two of them had never practiced one of the styles of classes. So this whole like make it a conversation thing, I think it goes deeper. And what it makes me think of is there's this assumption that if you say it out loud, as soon as I say this, no studio owner's like, yeah, I definitely believe that. Like we know that it's wrong, but behaviorally doesn't happen. The assumption is if you build it, they will come. Or if I have it, someone will buy it. Like just the fact that you have a pricing option or added class style or time, or you're doing a retreat doesn't automatically equal someone's going to sign up for it, buy it, or go to that class. You have to give them a reason for it. There has to be some conversation. So especially studios that are already operating, because when you're new, it kind of gets banded by the fact that people are paying more attention because everything you do is new. Or conversely, retreat is the example. The first retreat that you ever run often does really well. And we see it commonly in studios where they do one retreat, it sells out right away. They think, great, people love retreats. And the very next retreat, less people. By the third one, they struggle selling it. And it's because there was like this pent up excitement. You did the new thing. The 20 people who were pumped on it all bought it, but then they've already done it. And so you don't get all 20 of them back. You only get half. So there's a diminishing return. And then you actually have to market the thing. So you get a false sense of demand up front. Same thing. You launch a class. If you don't talk about it, if I don't know why I should go to it, if no other teacher ever mentions it, then just the fact that it exists doesn't mean I'm going to go do it. A good example would be like launching a yoga nidra class or something where it's like, it's a maybe late night time slot and it's a totally different genre of class than what someone typically goes to. They're not just going to automatically get it and go to that, especially if you call it something like nidra. They're like, what's that? Like, you've got to promote it. You've got to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody should be talking about it. Like I was just saying with retail, it's like, hey, have you tried this new class? Like literally every single student that you can. Like
Yep.
just get the word out.
Yep.
OG guerrilla marketing in the studio.
I think what Mara was saying earlier about like the personal invite is so much more powerful than just the poster and then like the general announcement.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, just like, hey, Mara, have you tried my new, whatever class? Like, then I think that's where we get it's a sales thing where, well, I've heard about it, but I'm not really sure. Like they might give you the question that they've been wanting answered that maybe hasn't been in the marketing materials, but like people want to know what's in it for me. What am I going to get out of this thing?
Yeah.
And so I think that, again, we talked about it, but starting the conversation one-on-one is like the best way to go, as far as selling somebody on this new thing.
Yeah. And I find too, like when you're in Savasana and the teacher's like telling you about all the things happening in the studio and whatever, like you immediately have those questions, but it's not the space to ask the questions and follow up with it, right? Like you have to make that choice after you shower or change or whatever, and you're like done your yoga class, you want to go home. Do you stay and bring up that conversation with the teacher? And like maybe they're busy. And then also like if you're like me, if you forgot the questions that you had in the first place. Yeah. So like reiterating that conversation and like bringing it up in a personal way, one-on-one, can be really helpful because, yeah, you said it in class, but like that was a blanket statement to 20, 30 people, and it's much more powerful to do that one-on-one for sure.
That
I have
also
the
makes me,
best.
sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kate.
I was gonna say it makes me think of also like in IHP, I've heard people announcing things while we are doing something that's very challenging, and I'm like, my brain is not taking in any of the information. All I'm trying to do is like, this burns, I got to get through it, whatever, you
Yeah.
know. So like, I think part of this is also recognizing when is a good time to bring it up during because, and I love what you said, Mara, like, yeah, even in Savasana, like pulling it back in afterwards because the questions maybe escaped you because you were just trying to have your class, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead, Josh.
Oh, I was gonna say I always have the best ideas in the middle of a class. Like, and I never remember them at the end.
I do
It
too. I'm
drives
like,
me
oh my
insane.
gosh, I can never remember anything after.
Yeah. I've always
Like-
wanted to have a notebook in class. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think the personal invite in the conversation like has more depth. I was also thinking, you're right, Carol, that like that's when they ask the question they've been meaning to ask. And here's the funny thing about it too that I see. They ask a question you've already answered. Like the answer to it is basically on the poster, it was in the email or the video you sent out, it was on the social media thing. So when they're asking it, is it that they're stupid and they like can't read or didn't understand this thing? Like maybe they just missed it. But in sales, we talk often about how the best salesperson is actually the best listener, not necessarily the best talker or the most charismatic. And so they ask you a question that's already technically been answered, but you can read between the lines or you can follow up with more conversation and more questions to them to get to the bottom of like, well, where is this question coming from? Because like the practical answer is already there. So the question is, people ask questions to open a conversation about getting the confidence behind the decision or like sorting something out for themselves, like it's sort of in a back and forth sounding board way. So the question itself is sometimes not even the most important thing. It's the conversation. It's like there was no email you could send me that was going to make me feel confident about spending $4,000 and coming on a retreat with you. But talking to Carol face to face, seeing her lit up about it, her re-answering the same question with absolute confidence and telling me it's going to be dope, that makes me feel good about it. That's it. I don't think you can do anything that's more powerful than that from a sales standpoint.
Yeah, and people want to like be a part of something. So if they know that like another teacher's going, or they hear a teacher or a front desk person talking to somebody else who is in your community about going, like you're more likely to go and like, I don't want to like jump on the bandwagon essentially. If you're seeing more people go instead of like you making that sole decision just on your own. And then if you have a yoga buddy too, like talk to your yoga buddy about it and bring a friend and go with one of your friends.
Dude, FOMO sells.
Yeah, it does.
Like this is part of the whole thing, whether it's a retreat, a workshop, whatever else. If you can create a scenario where there's FOMO, like you will sell things out. It's as simple as that. If there's no FOMO, if it's like indifference, that's where something's hard to sell. We misinterpret non-sales as non-liking it or not being interested or not thinking that it's valuable. That's possible, but I feel like there's actually a more likely category in many cases where it's just apathy. It's like you got this thing and like yeah, it's probably valuable. It'd be good for me to learn how to do the blah 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 at this workshop, but like I just don't give a shit. Like no one's going to say that to you, but it's not compelling. I'm apathetic to it. I'm indifferent, and therefore there's no price deal you can offer me. There's no whatever. It doesn't matter. So how do you overcome that? You've got to insert a better narrative than apathy, and the FOMO part comes in. So if it's part of the conversation, I know Carol's going, blah blah blah. Like those are the things that change that internal narrative. Cool.
Yeah,
Great.
super cool.
Great. Go sell some stuff. What else?
The um I love being put on the spot. It really helps my brain work really well.
I came in late. So I don't know what our plan is.
Well, before we were talking about like how important it is for SOPs or to have SOPs, and like organizing your stuff, like when you're rebranding or selling or expanding and all of that. So if you have anything to add on to that, that'd be cool.
I would just say that, Carol, I'd be curious, your take on this too, because I think we've both experienced this a lot recently. Like going to studios or working with studios is kind of surprised me how much one, people don't even know the word SOP. And that's not a big deal. Like standard operating procedure, sure, like that's internal jargony language, but that's pretty standard fare, But the extension of the not knowing the word part is like the lack of definition. That's the thing that has kind of surprised me this year so far with a bunch of studios has been, studios been operating for 15 years, 18 years, 10 years, whatever. And we just ask a really simple question. Example, what is the expectation for when the teacher shows up before the class? When is that supposed to happen? And like 75% of the time, we get the answer like, well, kind of here-ish, with the, plus or minus. Like it's not, there's no definition. So we don't even realize how much of an impact that ends up having on the whole of the studio, where then it's like you can't even build a system and have SOPs for how you're going to go through your first visit flow and include the teacher in it if there's a variability of 15 minutes for when the teacher shows up. It's like Carol's there 30 minutes early, ready to go and can do a tour. Mara doesn't show up till 10 minutes before and then goes and gets ready in the change room. How are we going to introduce the teacher to the new person? So the thing with SOPs right now is every studio has some version of like a lightweight checklist or stuff like that in place. Or not every, the vast majority. But it's so vague and lacks definition, lacks specificity that it actually disempowers the team. And so the test or question that's coming to mind that you could ask yourself as a studio owner would be, okay, if I've got a front desk checklist, for example, does my team use the front desk checklist 100% of times? Not sometimes, not they know where it is. Do I know for sure I'm on vacation in Bali surfing and Carol's going to physically look at the front desk checklist and make sure everything gets checked off? And so it's a silly question, but if the answer is no, which it is for many owners, the lack of detail is part of the reason why. It's like my whole 4-hour shift has only got 10 check boxes on it. I can memorize those and just interpret them however I want. I don't need to use the checklist. Like the lack of specificity, the lack of detail actually leads to lack of use, in my opinion. And that seems to be what we're seeing. I don't care what your take is on it, but
Yeah, it makes me think of that, how you do anything is how you do everything. Is that what it is? Something like that. And so it makes me think of how we always had very specific. The teachers are expected to be here at this time. They stay until this time. And so that kind of specificity goes into how we fold our towels. We were talking earlier, Mira, about you assume somebody might know how to run the washing machine, but do not assume, because there might be very specific ways or things you need to do. Fill this halfway. Don't fill it all the way. Like there are certain things that do need to be defined. And I think you're right, Josh. Like if you're kind of like wishy-washy about the task itself, then do they really even need to do the task? Is it sometimes it sort of like leads down that road? And I think that's where, you know, we were talking earlier too, Mara and I, about how we get into situations where we meet owners where the staff is running the show. And I think that's part of the reason too, is that the studio owner hasn't said, this is exactly how things are done. This is what I expect. So then that's where there's questions. And I think if you're going to be the steerer of the ship, make everything very clear, down to, folding the towels, unlocking the door, turning the lights on, what kind of music you want. Like, it makes it run how you want.
Yeah. And just because there's only like 10 steps in the opening checklist doesn't mean that you shouldn't be looking at that checklist every single time. Because like, I know for myself that like we had this very detailed checklist for our front desk and it was different every day and blah, da, 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 da. And I would be like, oh yeah, I got this. But then I'd always do a double check after. And they're not always, but there was sometimes where I'm like, oh shit, I totally forgot about this.
Yeah.
So like that checklist and that SOP is there for a very specific reason, because unless if you're Rain Man, you people forget, and that's okay. And like you want to make sure that you're getting all those things done and like keeping the standard of the studio. And there's a reason for everything. Like the towels need to be folded a certain way so it has that nice aesthetic and it looks nice and everything is nice looking. Like it's not just we need the towels folded this way because we like them. It's not like that. There's a reason behind most things.
I think owners sometimes misinterpret putting in boundaries, policies, clear expectations, SOPs, like frameworks as a type of micromanaging. And it can be, that's not the point of it. But the micromanaging part is when you create a situation, like the disempowering part is when you create a situation where there's going to be tension between you and I, Mara. Because your lack of clarity, then you have human error one day and don't do the thing the way that I want it done. And then I'm like, what's your problem, Mara? Why didn't you do this? And instead of taking the real ownership, like the radical responsibility as an owner part and being like, wait a minute, was there training on this? Are all of the necessary tools to succeed at this in place? Is there a reminder about this? Is that, like the checklist, whatever, like, is the whole system in place where for Mara to fail at this would require either Mara to be completely oblivious or to consciously choose to fuck up. So then I can have a conversation and be like, hey, how come this didn't happen? And we can have a discussion about it. But if that's a totally different conversation at that point, that's not micromanaging, that's creating structure.
Yeah.
The human brain wants structure. And so what we see in studios are such a brilliant testing ground for so much of this stuff. If you don't give your students and your staff structure in a studio, they'll create it. You go to any studio that doesn't have the stuff super defined, and I guarantee the front desk all does slightly different things, but there's some vague thing that they all follow. They're like, oh, we do it like this, or this is flexible like that. Same thing with the students. The perfect test is that student walks in and they're like, you got me right, thanks, and they just walk through. How does that happen? Did we tell them to do that? No, it's because you allowed it to happen. You started doing like, oh, Carol, I got you. Oh, Carol, I got you. Oh, Mara, I got you. We started to we habituated it. That's the structure you gave them by accident, and now they do the structure. And so structure is going to form anyways. If you don't control it, if you don't put a specific one in place, it's going to still happen. People will still habituate to something. Then the question will be, is it what you want? So using the student example, oh, peace, got you, like, then the conversations we were talking about before, hey, Josh, have you signed up for the challenge, the workshop, the retreat, do not happen because there's no time to talk to Josh. I'm just like, peace, go through.
Just yelling through the studio. Hey, Josh.
Just yelling through the studio. Wait,
did you hear about the retreat? Are you coming?
Yeah. There's a great double bed at a discount for you. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and to that point where I get like a bit on my soapbox about it too, is it's like, what a disservice to your student base. Like this lack of structure, then it happens anyways, and then there's a limitation to the interaction you have. We don't talk about cool things like the retreat coming up. We're like, hey, how's it going? That rain out there. Have a good class. See you. Who cares about that? What are we? You're a yoga studio. What else is there to talk about? Talk about yoga. Talk about yoga life. Talk about the stuff that you're doing at the studio. That's the conversation. That's why you're there. But instead, 90% of the conversation is the weather, have a good class, do you need a towel, something about their stupid dog.
Hey, you have a dog now, so you can't call them stupid.
Now I get to say stupid dog all I want.
No.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Pretty sure that's how that works.
I disagree.
I agree with all that except the stupid dog thing, Josh. But
okay.
and,
delete the stupid part. And their dog. Yeah.
And going back to the other reason that these clear expectations, I think, also lead to staff satisfaction, because if you have clear expectations and one person isn't doing the thing, like then either everyone else kind of falls off the wagon too, because they're like, well, they're not doing it. Why do I have to do it? And it becomes this like, domino effect of like the whole system starts to fall apart, or people start getting resentful because like, well, Mara never does that thing on the list, and then, becomes this tension. But if everyone knows this is the expectation on my shift to do this thing or these things, and then it's done, then okay, we're all on a team here. We're all working together. I did my stuff, you do your stuff, we're good. So I think putting that's another reason why having those clear expectations and SOPs are really important.
Yeah, totally. It can build up resentment if someone never vacuums, or someone like never fixes the vacuum when it breaks. And then you always have to fix it.
Yeah.
Not
totally.
fun.
Well, to that point, I think that's a really important point. Like, people thrive in structure. We thrive when we like are successful. You thrive when you're in an environment with a like team dynamic that's positive. And I was thinking the opposite of that too that we see is if you don't have that structure and everyone going the same way, then you inadvertently create an us versus them situation. Because then it's like, well, I do it this way and I'm on a shift with you. And even though Mara, the boss, has told you, Carol, hey, this is how we do it, I'm like, yeah, but we just do it like this. And now there's like, who do I believe? And like, logically, I should believe the boss and do it that way. But practically, that's not actually what happens. I'm going to choose the path of least resistance that's the easiest, that I would enjoy or I'm the most comfortable doing. That's the path I'm going to choose. So as soon as there's any variability, I'll default that direction, and that might not be actually what you're trying to have happen at the studio. And then it creates this subconscious at first, and then maybe very like conscious dynamic of like the owner manager level and the employees down below, and we're in conflict. And it's like, it's a fucking yoga studio. We're not in conflict. Structure. I just had a conversation just before this call with someone, and we were talking about even the simple thing of they had a cleaning crew person not abide by their cancellation policy. They couldn't make it in for a shift. They didn't notify them till like an hour before it was the last shift of the day. And then so the result was none of the towels, they do like the cold washcloth towel in lavender or whatever, none of that got done. And so the next morning, it's a 6 a.m. followed by a 7:30 in the morning class. Those two classes just suddenly didn't have towels. Does that implode anything in the business? Does it really, in the end, matter that much? You could say like, oh, that's just the yoga practice for those students today. But like now we have an inconsistent product, and the impact of this one person's actions of not abiding by the like, hey, 48 hours notice for changing your shift or get it covered, and them not showing up, impacted like 150 people. Like that's a large impact. Right. And your regular students come out and they're like, where's my lavender towel? Yeah. And so the incoming 6 a.m. teacher is going to scramble to try to get that together and stuff. No, like it's not even, and they're doing stand by themselves. It's not even possible.
Yeah.
So these clear expectations and things, they create positive boundaries where the system supports itself and the accountability is built in, which, Carol, to your point, makes the whole environment better to work in as well for everyone. So
Yeah.
Great.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap on this week's Weekly Roundup. Listen live every Thursday morning right here on Facebook, or subscribe to Studio Cult TV on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening from. See you next week.